Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. We're progressing. As you can see, we're building the rear side of the car, the rear wall. We have another sheet metal that will come over this, and we have it right there. It's going to be mounted here and go like this, and then joint underneath here. Now we also have these reinforcements of the end of the quarter panel done on both sides actually. So this is looking a little bit better than it was. So slowly it can be shut off completely. But we still need to figure this bit out and then work on the top. But we already have an idea on how we're going to do this, but we still need to test to see if our plans work. One more thing is, underneath the body we need to make another cross member. This one right here, we need to replace that, check the inner condition of that bit there, and also on this rear of the chassis rail. We have opened up the front and we will probably redo this bit here, but we'll see. So we need to make this whole structure here, and as you can see on the profile, it's not completely straight, so we still need to do some fiddling so it's going to look as original as possible. One more thing that we are currently brainstorming on is the floor of the trunk. Now we don't have a bead roller, so this kind of sucks, and the shape, as you can see, it has loads of like organic shapes. So I don't know, either I was testing yesterday to make a wooden sample and then clamp it together with the sheet metal and then actually punch the edge in, but this is probably not the best way to work on the entire floor panel because it's a large sheet metal, and the distortions and the deformations are probably going to be big. So we are still brainstorming how to do it, because we want it to look as original as possible, but if we will have to make some modifications to the pattern, we are going to do that, because I rather have a nice rust-free, strong floor rather than pretty looking but rusty floor. So yeah, we're going to figure something out, but it's pretty hard when you don't have the necessary tools, because bead rolling would be an option, or maybe a giant press so you can make those shapes out and press it in. But when you're working in a workshop, you cannot produce such large forces and the deformations in the sheet metal. So it's something to think about and maybe get another way to the same result. But if we'll hit an obstacle, we are probably going to make some modifications to the shapes, so it's going to help us out a little bit, but we'll see. I will update you on that. Crispy. Hi, we are back in the workshop. We have cut out the floor of the trunk of the boot area where I'm currently standing. So this will have to be made from new sheet metal, because it was in very rough shape. Now yesterday I dropped it off at a friend who has a bead roller and some other equipment that I don't have, and he will attempt to make it. If things won't go as planned, I will most likely make another one, but I will have to customize the shapes of the reinforcements, just because the way it's currently designed, it is highly unlikely to make by hand with current tools that I have. So some modifications are needed, just because there are certain things you cannot do, because in the factory these things are made with a giant press, and it's much easier to make them than with the tools that you have and with the forces that you can generate with a hammer. So this is it. We are working on a rear crossmember as well. This will be a massive reinforcement for the car. We are doing this out of a 2mm S235 mild construction steel, and we're going to double it in the lower area. So this is what we're currently doing, and we are also working on the ends of the rear quarter panel, so this will come very soon. But we also have to make a new edge for the gasket for the boot lid, so we have still quite some way to go regarding the rear. Regarding the front, I'm still looking for a driver's side fender and the lower front wall, lower front ballast or something like that. Luftleitblech in German, but it's highly unlikely to be found, and it's a problematic part, and it's because the holes for the blinkers were cut out and replaced with straight metal. I do not have a shape to go on, so I can make another one. So I will maybe drop off at a guy who has an Opel Manta and try to make a template out of cardboard that I can then use to make my front wall. But if everything else fails, we can still ride with a front spoiler, so there are some alternatives. But we are progressing, and the car is much sturdier than it was. I'm very happy that the seals and the A-pillars and stuff like that is done, so we can now progress with the rear and the front. I still have to take out the stuff that I left in the citric acid that was marinating. I think that the process is done. I need to put that in primer color, most likely epoxy, but we will see. And I'm still looking for an option how to spray the paint of the car, because the paint stripper that I got is pretty much useless. So we'll see, and sanding will probably take forever, but we'll deal with this problem when the bodywork is done. So yeah, let's get to work. Okay, so this was one of the reinforcements that is in the floor of the boot area. So I made a wooden piece and I tried hammering it in like we did with the inner seals to kind of see if we can recreate this shape. This is just the old piece of rear edge that was on the car. I mean, it is pretty okay, but not to my standards, so we'll see if Sebastian can make it with a bead roller and some other stuff. Considering he's very good with bodywork, I have no doubts that he can do it more successful than I can. So we are currently at the trunk area. Now we have taken out pretty much the entire trunk floor. So now we have to fill it up with something, and this is the spare wheel compartment. And as you can see, it has curvature like this, so the wheel falls into it, but we also have this curvature here and this tiny little edge here, as you can see. So the contour is a little tricky to make. Now using an English wheel or a bead roller would be welcome at this point, but we have to deal with what we have. So we will try to replicate this wheel compartment thingy, spare wheel. What we've done right now is we have bent this sheet metal here, as you can see. Okay, so this is this bit here, okay, like that. So now what we have to do is this is where it will meet onto the half circle stuff. So, and then it will be spot welded on this edge here. But now we have to bend it like this. But because we already have the edge made into it, this will be a little tricky, because this is a reinforcement, and if we would start hitting it like that, it would bend here, but it would not bend that much on this edge, because this will be a stronger point. So there was a little bit of discussion of how we're going to approach this, just because it is a little bit tricky to make, and we do not have all the necessary tools that would make this job easier. But we have decided to take the old school approach with a hammer, because theoretically, if we would take this edge here and extend it, that would warp the metal. Okay, so if we would be hitting this edge multiple times, we would extend it, it would add length, so it would have to bend, okay, like a banana. So as you can see, it's starting to bend a little bit. Okay, we have started hitting it, so we will try to extend it and use that warpage to make a tub of the wheel in a circular shape. We will see. I haven't done this before, but we'll certainly give it a shot, because we don't have another option right now. So I will take you along so you can see my potential success or potentially a failure. So let's go. While I'm working on a tub for the spare wheel, my dad is working on the surrounding that will hold the wheel compartment. So we're making one part out of two. So we are both working on our own, and then we'll join them, and then it goes into the car. Because this edge, extending it will need a lot of deformation, I decided to try another thing. I'm going to use pliers and kind of deform it, warp it a little bit, and then when I will be straightening it out with a hammer, it's going to straighten itself, but the deformation that lead to extension of the material will hopefully still remain. This isn't working. We are getting nowhere, because when you deform the edge with this, you shrink it, and then when you beat it, you just straighten it out as it was. You cannot push it out further than you'd like. I mean, I could take a bigger hammer and maybe thin it out a little bit more, but yeah, this is nowhere close to the original shape. You know, that one is much with a much smaller diameter. So we will try to persuade it with acetylene. So We will see if that will work. This is a learning curve. It's better that you see it here, that it's not working, than foolishly think that it's going to work like I did. So we all learned something, right? We have welded the start, so we will have a better grip when bending it. That's the general idea. So this is it for this episode. We are going to put the car in the other garage, so some other stuff can be happening here, and we're going to take a few days off, and we're going to put our attention towards the axles so we can finish them, and then we can put them in primer and in color, and then we can upgrade the brakes, suspension, stuff like that, so we can kind of get those ready. In the meantime, the car will be sitting, and we are going to continue with the trunk edges, the floor, and the spare wheel compartment and stuff like that. So a lot more interesting body stuff coming up next. But now it's time for me to go back into the work.